Hi, everybody. My name is Jeremy Smith. I live here in Austin. I am the CEO at Civitech. We have built this software called Running Mate that Amy was just telling you about. And I have been working on various data-related projects for the party and candidates running for office for about 9 years now, and have learned lots of painful things as a campaign manager, as a field director, as a staffer, about how data within our ecosystem works. And so would love to talk to you all a little bit about some lessons to help you kind of get started and to kind of channel your efforts, whether you're a precinct chair or a county chair or a super volunteer or a candidate or staffer, any of those things, happy to help. So this will be a quick little lesson on a few key topics, and then we'll go into just general questions about any of your races. And what Amy mentioned earlier about Running Mate, it is free online. Within 10 minutes, you can go to a website, sign up, and learn statistics about your district that are unavailable anywhere else instantly for free. And we would love to help you make use of those in any capacity. So every one of you can walk out of this room knowing more about your district or your region immediately today than you did before. And that's our goal. So I want to talk about this concept of the word data is like too big, right? Data is, it's a form of note-taking. It's organizing and structuring information. It is research. It is analysis. It is a big, complicated word. And what it is not is an answer to exactly what you need to do. Data is not going to tell you how to live your life. Data is not going to solve your problems for you. Data is not going to do any work for you. Data is a tool, a technique. It's a scientific term for how you store and take notes. And measure things. And so I think all too often we get misled by the concept of data or measurements or statistics, this idea that something is telling us one single answer. And that is almost never going to be the case. And so if you're a candidate running for office, if you are someone who's been working in politics and organizing, something you are all probably already familiar with, but should get very comfortable with is most of the data is going to be wrong, right? Joe Biden had the best data people working for him, and it didn't matter, right? Like cultural feelings and other things play a significant role. We've been talking about branding, we've been talking about other things. Data is not going to give you some sort of special answer or secret sauce that's going to make your life easier per se. The goal is to help you take like information in an organized fashion so you can follow up with people, because politics is about people. And your goal should be to get the most votes. You are not here to get the most followers or the most dollars or the most pretty signatures or the best logo or anything else. Your goal is to have the most votes on election day. And if you lose sight of that, you are going to get easily sidetracked on lots of other things that are easier to measure. Because it's really easy to measure how you're doing on your fundraising day to day. And it's very easy to measure how many Twitter or Facebook or Instagram followers that you have. Those things are put right in front of you, but they will not walk away with an electoral victory. And so the key is every question you should be asking yourself when you're evaluating vendors or you are evaluating your choices for where to block walk or anything else, does this get me more votes than my other options? And then you need to come to that decision quickly, because you can spend forever trying to evaluate what your best choice is, but you're never gonna know. And so you just have to be okay with the idea that you're doing the best you can and you're trying to use good information from there. So that is my first takeaway about the concept of data, is just that it's often you're gonna have things that are wrong. Everyone here has had the experience of phone banking or sending text messages or receiving text messages to the wrong person, right? I get a bunch of messages for somebody named Brian. I have had this cell phone number for more than 20 years. I don't know who Brian is. I have friends named Brian, but I don't know who the Brian is that the party is looking for. But every year, the Democratic Party pays about 6 cents to repurchase a phone number for some guy named Brian that is actually my phone number. And I know this as someone who I have gone in and personally deleted it from the Democratic Party's files for several years. But the party is rebuying it every time, 6 pennies every year like clockwork. And that's true for about 55% of all the phone numbers on the file across these various audits, because we're buying from credit card bureaus who have decades-old information from pre-1990s privacy laws. And everyone is trying their best to find something useful, and sometimes it is wrong. And sometimes someone sells you something that is wrong because they also didn't know. Or sometimes some guy named Brian typed in a fake phone number to some website when he didn't want them to text him. And now everyone texts me. And that is the experience that many people in America are having, including all of you. So when you are using your tools, you just have to be comfortable with the notion that you're going to text some people and it's not the right person you were looking for. You're going to call the wrong person. You are going to knock on the wrong door. And that is not bad. You are trying to reach people, and you have to be okay with the fact that we have imperfect systems here. And our goal is ultimately to win the most votes. It's not to get a perfect set of votes. We're not able to get 100% of votes. We're not able to get every person we wanted. And we're not going to get the best votes. We win power with the most votes. In America, 50% of the vote plus 1 equals 100% of the power. And if you walk out of here with 49.9% of the votes, you get 0% of the power to make decisions that affect people's lives. And we need to be extremely clear-eyed about that fact. So I want to talk about the voter file. So is anyone in here unclear or has never heard the word voter file? Raise your hand if you do not know the word voter file. All right, we got a few. So the voter file is a colloquial term. It's a common use term inside of politics to mean lots of things to different people. Some people think of it as the magic list of everybody, or here are all the voters, or here is all the information to find people's cell phone numbers, or something else. Unfortunately, none of that is the case. The voter file is a list provided by your county election officials that says here is who is currently registered to vote at these addresses as of some time between a day ago to 90 years ago. It is not up to date. It is not a complete exhaustive list, and it is often wrong. So you have to bear in mind that the official list from the government is constantly out of date. And the simple answer for that is there's a lot that goes on in a population of 330 million people in America. Every day, somebody is turning 18 years old. And every day, sadly, somebody is passing away. Some people are going to prison. Some people are coming out of prison. Some people become new citizens. And that works out to about 1/3 of the voter file changes between every election. So a list that was accurate 2 years ago is 35 to 36% wrong just 2 years later because a bunch of people moved and they went to a new state. Some people went to a new college dorm room. Some people passed away. And due to COVID, millions more people passed away than normal just a few years ago. So we have a lot of stale information in what's called the voter file. So the official list given to you by your Secretary of State and your election officials is partially wrong. And it's incomplete because there are a lot of people who live here right now in the county and city to which this has been the #1 place to move to in the country for more than 10 years, with 100 net new people arriving in Austin every day for more than a decade. Some of them did not think to register to vote. They needed to find a job or a house or to get their schooling or to get their family set up, to get their child care. Their first priority was not to figure out Texas's asinine voter registration laws, right? And they're coming from 41 states that have an online voter registration system, and 35 of them have an automatic voter registration system. So there are tons of people arriving here totally unaware that in Texas you have to fill out a piece of paper by a certain date in order to register to vote. So and I'm being very Texas specific because I am assuming this is a mostly Texas audience. Disabuse me real quick. Is anyone here a candidate in another state? Because I will help you out too. All right, so I can focus on Texas. Texas is the #1 state of opportunity in terms of unregistered voters, non-voters, both of these categories. So you have people who are registered to vote and did not vote. And you also have people who were never registered to vote. They also did not vote because they cannot vote until they fill out the right piece of paper at the right time. And then you have people who were registered and did vote. That is the smallest group here in Texas. We have the largest number of non-voters of any state in America, and we have the largest number of unregistered voters in any state in America. And so I want to illustrate that point by comparing us to 2018. Because upcoming in 2026, all evidence that we see is we are headed for a bigger wave year than 2018. Right now, we are winning special elections across America by the tens of thousands, more than 50% bigger than we did in 2017. The national brand could not be worse. I don't think anyone in here thinks that the National Democratic Party brand is doing great, right? But locally, our candidates are winning everywhere. Iowa, Florida, Kansas, Idaho, South Dakota. We are seeing wins in ruby red counties within places that have an average of 4.2% turnout. That is the rate of local election voting in America if your election is not on the same day as the federal election in November. 1 out of 25 people is voting, which means anybody can win a local race. So I want that to be a point of reassurance, and I'm going to get more into that. In 2018, the last wave year, Ted Cruz got 4.2 million votes. Beto O'Rourke got 4 million votes. So that is 4 and 4.2, that's 8.2 million people voted. There are 11.5 million Texans who could have voted that year and did not vote. So we could have had 2 candidates get more votes than Ted Cruz, right, and take that election in that body of people not voting. That is enormous opportunity. We needed 215,000 more votes to win this state out of 11.5 million people. That is a tremendous chance. And that is true in every county and every city and every school board and local district. There are way more people here not voting than voting. And the number one reason that they give for why they are not voting is they didn't know there was an election. I know that is tough in a room full of people who pay attention and care and feel like we have an informed electorate. I am sad to say most voters do not know who they are voting for. Most voters, in a poll in 2018, for example, for Beto O'Rourke, showed that more than half of all self-identified Democrats who planned to vote in September of 2018 had not heard of Beto O'Rourke. So there are a lot of people, and most of them are not paying attention to politics. You know many of them in your own life. We all know that this is the case. It just is much bigger than we realize. And what that means to me is we have a big opportunity because people are dissatisfied. The number one answer to polls last year between Joe Biden and Donald Trump for most of the year was anybody else. That was that 78% of people in America responded to those polls saying, which person do you prefer? And said, literally someone else, anyone, doesn't matter. People made up all kinds, they added rappers, they added movie stars, TV show, Matthew McConaughey, right? They're local political leaders, Bernie and AOC and all these others, Buttigieg, they all polled on that sort of thing in substantial numbers. 3/4 of Americans said, please, someone else. We got someone else, and there was enormous enthusiasm in those first 60 to 90 days ahead of time, and then it kind of faded. And we lost. It was a close election. That's another thing. 2024 was actually a close election. It was not a blowout. It was not a mandate. It was historically one of the closest elections in America. And it was in keeping with all of the recent elections in the country that have been actually very close. Barack Obama very nearly lost the election in 2012. 2012 was a close election. 2016 was a close election. 2020 was a close election. 2024 was a close election. 2018 and the midterms, these have been close elections. And what that means is we can win more than we realize. We have enormous opportunity, but we have to go out and we have to get and invite people in. And you heard from Bob Kramer earlier, people, they want to be a part of something. They want to be in a form of action. And we know that one of the most effective things is to invite someone else along. The number one measurement system for getting new votes in politics today is relational, which means people you already know inviting you to support a candidate or to come with them to vote. In every category and in every place, relational effects are the number one way that people decide to vote. If you have a roommate who votes, it makes you 12 percentage points more likely to vote than someone who has a roommate who doesn't vote. And if your roommate is female, it's 4 points even more effective. So women are still doing more of the work, as we know. So all of that to say is that this kind of room and this energy that you have here right now, and you are in community with other people who support that, we have to take that and we have to export that back out to where we all live. You have to, if you are a candidate, you have to recruit people to be your field staff and your precinct chairs who are going to get the work done. If you are a county chair, we need to recruit more precinct chairs. If you are a precinct chair, you need to recruit more block captains. And we need to keep getting more and more people to be enthusiastically in this community together. And that's why you have tools like Unified, who is out there like helping people build community in a regular way. And we have merchandise from our providers back there to help people identify as being part of the team. People are happy to cheer for a sports team of any different flavor you want in America. And the analogy I'll draw is nobody looks at like all 32 NFL teams and evaluates their policy choices and figures out which one is the best suited for them and what they believe and everything else. That is not how it works. Most of them are shouting for the one that is closest to where they live. And that is how people identify with their community. It's where they are living their life. Whether that is a real world community or it's an online community, which is increasingly common. And so we can reach people. You can reach them on Facebook and on Twitter. You can DM people and have conversations. You can build followings on social media applications and create community. But the key is we have to drive a sense of community because that is what everyone is saying they want. Everyone in America is asking for more. We have this loneliness epidemic. We have these crises of like violence and othering of other people. And all of these are, essentially symptoms of a crisis of community. And so what we have to do is make our brand and our team and our candidacies community building, because that is what every bit of evidence from scientific studies shows us. That is what the outcomes of elections, and that is what voters are telling us, both in their responses to polls and in their behavior online. In their online, there are tons of people asking for a viable alternative, whether that to them means a third party or a better candidate or a nicer candidate or a better, they want ranked choice voting. Whatever that mechanism is, that is an expression of frustration with politics as it is. And if you are a local candidate, you can tap into that and you can lead on that front. And that is something that works everywhere. And we are seeing it work, and we're winning something like 38% of elections in Oklahoma just by getting someone to step in and run for office. And so if some of you are still thinking about whether to run or you haven't declared, I want to just encourage you, because it is extremely hard and it is brutal, and you grant license to half of America to hate you and half of people supposedly on your own side to be mean to you on the internet. And that sucks. It's terrible. We don't have to do that to one another, but it is meaningful, because if you win, remember, you get 100% of that power, which you can use to benefit your community. We do not have to be like Elon Musk and Donald Trump and raid the treasury for our own personal interest. We can use the powers of government to benefit our own people and our own community. And that is what it means to me when I see all of you running for office. It's people standing up to try to do the right thing locally. And there are something like 562,000 political offices in America in which an election takes place, which is probably too many, so maybe we should do something about that. But that is a lot of people who can influence things at a local level and make a difference, even when things are going very bad on the national front. So I want to encourage you that we can win a lot more places than we realize. And in particular, with next year on track for a record blue wave year, it means that things that people have not considered are much more in play. So if you're looking at your election and you see that on average it is down about 6 to 9 points, that is a 50-50 chance right now, because people are dissatisfied with the party in power, and we're in a little bit of a cycle of just throwing out whoever we most recently elected. So we can take advantage of that now, and we should be pressing to run for office as many places as possible and trying to bring in as many voters as possible. One more thing is that it takes all of us. Like, it takes a big community effort. There is no one person who is coming to save us. I think we all can say that we're a little dissatisfied with national, democratic leadership in various ways. As much as we might champion them individually, there's almost no one feels good about the way it's going. And that is sort of a waste of your mental energy and time. Because if you wait for Chuck Schumer to come and save us here in Texas, it's just not going to happen, right? Like, that's not going to occur. The presidential candidates, they're not running until 2027, and they're not focused on any of that, and they're going to be focused on 7 presidential battlegrounds just like usual. What we can do is win locally everywhere in the meantime. We have something like 375,000 elections we can win between now and the next presidential election. And that is where our focus should be firmly aimed. But it takes more work out of the precinct chairs. It takes more work out of the campaign staff and the vendors and the candidates themselves. And ultimately, it's going to feel very lonely for those of you who are candidates because it is your name on the ballot. And it feels like people are either accepting or rejecting you, which can be an enormous feeling of a high when people vote for you and you win. It feels amazing. And it can be extremely personal and hurtful when you lose. And many of you are going to inevitably lose because that is the nature of the math at play. And that is okay. It is not bad. It is not a reflection on you. It is not an attack on you. It's a jersey. And it says, some people are more in tune with this brand or with your, whatever it might have been, or with the opposing brand than they are with you. And you have to remember that if you win, and you have to remember that if you lose. That it is, people are not giving you a license to do whatever you want. They are hoping for a champion who will do the right thing for them. But that means that we have like an enormous chance here to help make a big difference. Because if we take advantage of a wave year and win big and pass useful laws faster than I think Joe Biden and his team were able to succeed at, we can do a lot to help turn things around right now. We are in a particularly brutal era. I don't think anyone needs reminding of that. We don't know how long it will go. And historically, it can have been for a few years to decades-long bad periods. But the only way out of it is to win more votes. We must claim more power, and we must use it, and not be afraid to use it based on what somebody says on some cable news channel. You do not have to care about any of those things. What you need to do is run your race the way that it works for you and your voters, because that is what works. And anybody's opinion on CNN is completely irrelevant to your race. So if you have something that is resonating with the voters you are talking to, keep pushing on that front. Do not listen to what the New York Times or CNN or anybody else thinks who is trying to get paid to talk on TV, because they have a lot of nonsense and none of that is going to help you. So to that end, I'm happy to take questions on any topic about things that are working in politics, things that are not working in politics, specific tactics, different things, and to assist, in any way. So we can kind of do this. If your questions are oriented more towards the large audience, that'd be great to do here. And if you have very, very small tactical decisions about your race, come see us at the table over here after this. So please.
Hey, Jeremy, I know that in Texas we don't have to register by party, but there have been some independent studies done that kind of say that there's more registered Democrats than Republicans. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I do. That is a report from L2, which is Donald Trump's data company, and is total garbage. So just as like a first thing, if you've all seen this like Facebook meme online about 2 million more registered Democrats in Texas, obviously people don't register, and they're not making that claim. They're claiming that everyone who is Hispanic is a Democrat, and everyone who is black is a Democrat, and therefore there's more Democrats, which is a completely pointless way of measurement. And so it is, they are a Republican. They will tell you they're nonpartisan because they like money, but 96% of their clients are Republicans and Donald Trump. So not to knock them, there's probably good people there who do their work and may not agree with the administration, but they are a Republican data firm, and they are one of the, I will competitively say, they are one of the worst data firms on this front because they make really bad assumptions based on gender and race and things like that. And so I put zero stock in that. Every other model of the state shows more currently registered people are Republican leaning, which matches the election outcome. So it is extremely suspect. But I will say there are lots of people in Texas who are not registered to vote at all, and they lean Democratic. And so the state is much closer than it might appear from any measurement of that kind.
All right. Kind of lost my train of thought. So much was going on in that comment that you had.
This is a good thing. Data is about write your questions down when you think of them. All right, then you have them for later. And if you're talking to people, write notes when you're talking to voters, so that way you can follow up with them.
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna have you come back.
Yeah, no worries. We'll come back to you.
All right. Anyone else have a question? Okay.
No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank Jeremy and Civitech because they were very, very instrumental in my election a few years ago in helping me to get elected. And so, if you haven't reached out to them, you need to reach out to them. I'm doing an endorsement, I guess you'd say, but it's true. They really work hard, and the programs that they have work. So, thank you again.
Yeah, Doc Jackson was the first candidate we ever backed in a race in 2019. So.
Hey, I have a question on the redistricting that just happened in Texas.
Yeah.
Is that reflected on the boundaries on Civitech yet?
So I think it is. It is already reflected because the law was signed. So I was going to
Gotcha.
say, like, we had them ready depending on what happened, but I
Gotcha.
believe it's already uploaded. We have both. So like depending on what happens with lawsuits and everything else, we have all of the files available. So we're ready to work either direction.
Got it. And I live, second question, I live in a county that's exploding right now with growth. So every month there's thousands of single-family homes with a lot of people moving in for schools and all that. Is that data, yeah, and I'm sure a lot of them are registering to vote when they update their address, but is that kind of data somehow captured in Civitech, and how often can that be?
Yes, it is. Every 2 months is the answer to that last question.
Perfect.
So put that in perspective. When people move, about 55% of households file a change of address form with the post office, which we capture and track, and we match them to the voter file. But about half of people never do that and don't register to vote. So when we don't know they're there. So what I will encourage you is our tool is designed, it gives you all the known information, but you can find that out in your own neighborhoods. So if you are canvassing and you are walking down a street and there are 4 more houses than we can even see yet, you can add them. You can do that yourself, and you should. You should go up to them and welcome them and try to register them to vote. And if you're seeing those signs, those realtor signs pop up in your neighborhood that say house sold and then somebody's there with a big moving truck, that is a great flag for you to bake some cookies or brownies or whatever your specialty is and come on over and get to know them and welcome them and maybe give them a voter registration form if you're a VDR. So, yes.
So, as a candidate for a congressional seat and a kindergarten teacher, so I'm working full time.
Yeah.
And
It's like dealing with children. So
it's like
you're
dealing
well
with children.
practiced, yeah.
I'm gonna do great in Congress
Yeah.
because So my question is, how does someone like me, who I believe fits all the things that we talked about earlier in a candidate, make an impression, get noticed on a level that's going to help me raise the money that I need to flip a seat? Like, what kind of suggestions would you have
Yeah,
for something like
complex
that?
question. Okay, let's break it down. So there's a few different things there, which is, remember, the number one goal is to get the most votes. Money is important. Money is like an important aspect to being able to pay your team to work on getting the most votes. So I will divide and answer both for you. So on the fundraising front, it is a challenge. If your race has been historically competitive, you will have absolutely no problem raising $6+ million in your own account and probably $7 to $10 million in supporting accounts. So depending on how competitive it is perceived to be in the past, it goes from super easy to really hard. Yes, that is true. There are probably going to be about 4 to 6 congressional districts here who will have that threshold of money automatically, and the other, 32, it's going to be much more variable. And so you got to adjust accordingly. So if you are in a super competitive hot seat, you should be expecting a kind of a $10 million budget plus. If you are in what is perceived to be less competitive seat, or you are challenging a Democratic incumbent, you're looking at a budget that is in the hundreds of thousands to less than $1 million probably. And so you want to tailor your plan accordingly, and you need to make your decisions based on that reality of your budget. So to get noticed, though, there are people who explode on that, and a great example is, I forget their name, Tom. Bright Blue Ink had the candidate who made a big national name for themselves running for Congress in 2022, like sex worker who was what was their name? Alexandra Hunt is a great example of this. I think was a pretty much unwinnable seat the whole time, and raised a tremendous amount of money online by actually just leaning into what people were going to attack her about anyway. and succeeded. And part of it was like a really good merch game. She had hilarious, like invective and like funny, like social things on her shirts and bumper stickers and everything else that like, met the moment. And so, but it is extremely challenging. So out of more than 120,000 elections next year that are going to be taking place, a few dozen will go viral, right? MJ Hagar Doors ads, best political ad in like living memory, I think, here in Texas, raised a ton of money. We weren't going to win that seat anyway, but it could happen, and you could catch lightning in a bottle, and you should run with it. And if you have a good instinct for those sorts of things, lean into it. But for most of you, that strategy is not going to work. And so the key is to build a coalition of people locally who will do the work. Most Democratic voter outreach work is done by volunteers. And so that is the way that you should absolutely lean in general. And so some things that can work for you that are cheap and easy are to, candidates have probably all heard of call time, where you sit down for hours at a time and you work through your phone calls to raise money. Do some text time too, not to donors, but to your voters. Text a few thousand voters at the beginning of the morning with a message written by you, and your team can do it with the push of a button or whatever tool you're using. But send a message to a few thousands of voters that is authentically from you, that is not asking for money, and that is just interested in letting them know you're there and we want to get to know them. And some of them will write back, usually a lot of them. And historically, we've seen about a fifth of people on those lists will just respond, and with some skepticism usually. And then from like 7 to 8 p.m. or whatever time works for you, you just respond to them. And you can do that with these automated tools. You can do it from your computer to make it easy on typing, or you can do it from your phone if you're really good at that. And depending on if you want to use your personal phone number or not, I would recommend, in general, you get a Google Voice number or some sort of other tool, just so that you're not getting too much harassment on your own phone. But you can text people. You can text thousands and thousands of people, and you'll find that you can actually have fluid conversations with a lot of them. You need to be mindful that some people will screenshot whatever you say and be mean to you on the internet, right? Ignore that. Like, try to be judicious about what you say. Don't say inflammatory things like "I wish more people had been shot at that rally," or other like things that would be like wrong and inappropriate for your stature. But what you can do is be authentic and build a relationship with people. And so I have been in races where a candidate was placed third in a primary, goes to runoff, and then we dominate the runoff with 80% of the vote because we just talked to more voters, because we focused on getting more votes. So at the end of the day, regular people in your district are the ones who are voting. And if you are running for Congress, on average, most of you have about 600,000 eligible adults in your district, and you need some portion of them to come vote for you. And typically, in Texas, that's going to mean 150 to 220,000-ish is going to be your win number, and it is impossible for you to talk to that many people. So what you have to do is think about the groupings. There's a bunch of people like me and people in this room who are going to show up to vote no matter what. You don't need to waste your time talking to me. If you need to feel better about something, you should reach out and talk to me. If you need to get votes, you need to talk to people who don't normally vote. And so you want to screen for people who are not voting and talk to them. And you want to texting, you can do texting, you can do it with your canvassing, you can do it with your mail. Just focus your time and energy on new votes. Don't spend time preaching to the choir. If you are preaching to the choir, you are likely losing in politics, at least in elections, because that is a great way to feel really good, to have everybody in this room celebrate you and appreciate you and make you feel good about the moment, and to lose your race because you're not getting any new votes in this room. So you've got to go to the rooms where we are not. And that's the key. So lean into what works well for you. Like, make quips about being a teacher and dealing with toddlers. And like, no one thinks Congress is going great, so make fun of them all day, So, but yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Block walking versus lit drop. Do you have any
I do
data
have
on
opinions.
that?
I have opinions, less data. All right, so let's, all right, block walking, for those of you, right, like knocking on the door, trying to talk to someone at the door, have a conversation. Lit drop, take your door hanger, you walk by, you don't knock on the door at all, you just hang it on the doorknob and you hope they check it later. Different purposes is what I would say. So if your goal is the distribution of literature with important information about voting and in mass, lit drop is a great technique. It's very useful to try the door hanger. If you don't have the right cutout for the door hanger, use rubber bands. Just equip everything so you can rubber band it to the doorknob or the handle. And just bear in mind, right, like legally, you are allowed to like knock on doors for civic purposes and elections and campaigning and all the no trespassing and please don't come knock on my door sign. Use your judgment, right? Like, if you're really good with people, like I just ignore those things. If you struggle on that sort of thing and you get caught flat-footed, just ignore them and move on. But your goal is like, if your goal is the mass distribution of literature right before the election with key information like the time and polling locations and reminding people of your name, that's where you use LitDrop. If you're trying to talk to voters, do not ignore all their doors and move on, right? For the most part, you want to have conversations with voters. It is very, very unlikely that your literature is going to convince people to change their mind from voting Republican to Democrat or something like that. You want to be using your LitDrop towards an audience that is already supportive of you, and you are trying to remind them to vote. So it's those low information voters, those 11 million people who aren't voting in the midterms. That's who you want to be using that for. For block walking, you want to use all the time from now till next October. You want to be block walking more, and as much as possible, prioritize mass conversations with voters. You'd rather have one conversation with everyone than you would have 10 conversations with one person. Just use that as a rough heuristic. Don't be rude to people that you meet at the same event. But in general, one full pass of your district is better for you mathematically than spending too much energy and time on someone you just feel like you've almost got there. That's where a good text time approach can work. So you can do that texting from your couch when you're tired. But block walking is still in evidence, like one of the most effective techniques. It is just much harder. COVID trained a lot of people to not answer their doors, and there's a lot more Ring doorbells now and other camera doorbells.
Okay, yeah, that was actually going to be the second part of my question, the effectiveness of block walking in today's
It's still
time.
it's number 2 on the list of like things that are highly effective at getting people to change their mind and to support a candidate. Voters report when they are unhappy about elections, they say things like, no one ever talked to me, no one ever asked me. That's like the number 1 response in their dissatisfaction with politics, is they feel like they're just getting spammed and no one cared to come and talk to them. And so when you show up, it makes a difference. Whether or not they're rude to you in the moment or they want to go back to their Netflix show or whatever's going on, right? It is still the most effective. The only thing more effective is relational, is if their friend reaches out to them instead of you as a stranger. But as a candidate, you get a little special boost because people are more open to the idea that the actual candidate is talking to them. If you're, me, a super volunteer, a staffer, right, like there's a lot short shrift for kind of like, someone who's working for the candidate is going to always have a harder time. So if you are the candidate, you are the most valuable resource on your campaign. You are the most likely to close a conversation with donors. Donors almost always want to talk to the candidate. You are the most likely person to close a conversation with voters. And so your time is precious and you need to maximize it talking to as many people as possible. The other thing that's going to help you with, you'll get better at talking. If you talk a lot, you get better at it. And so just keep trying. If it goes poorly a bunch, that's okay. That's normal. Everybody gets better at this. I will tell you that Beto O'Rourke in 2017, Jeremy's personal opinion, not that impressive a speaker. Beto by 2018, best Democratic candidate of the year. And has only gotten better. Like better and better in 20. Like he is like still learning. AOC, same thing. Like still learning and getting better. And our potential is that we have a bunch of candidates, and our bench is growing from all of you. And in this room are people who are going to be all of our most important future leaders because we still are doing it for the right reasons. Everyone in the Trump family who wants to be president right now and look at pedestals of themselves is doing it to steal money, right? Every move they make is to steal money for themselves, right? They only care about that. And so our candidate, they're not getting better, right? They're snorting more cocaine. Don Trump Jr. wants to be our president in 2028, right? So, but like, talk to voters. Always. And then the only thing you can do better is to get someone's friends to talk to those voters. And that requires you building a relationship that is people feel trust and they want to do that. So I think we are out of time, but I will
Yes.
be over here to help you with any more questions you have, and very deeply honored to be here. And thank you to Nancy
yeah.
for putting this
You're so
awesome
welcome.
event together.